Welcome to Link Up and Learn with LiveBig. I'm Sarah, and today we're wrapping up the season in kindness, care, and connection. The holiday season is a time of joy and togetherness, but it can also be overwhelming, especially for people with disability and families who support them. Routines shift, services pause, and festive gatherings can bring sensory overload, communication challenges, and emotional ups and downs. In this episode, I'm joined by two LiveBig clinicians, Rachel, who is an occupational therapist, and Heather, who is a psychologist, to help us explore how we can make the festive season more inclusive and more joyful for everyone. Welcome, everyone. Let's start with you, Rachel.
The festive season is a break from normal schedules. No school, clinics closed, caregivers on leave. For someone who relies on routine, that could be really stressful, right? Why are disrupted routines so challenging during the holidays?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, routines for us provide structure and security in the week. They guide what our schedules are and can act as a way to help us remember things that we do in the day. So, when our routines get disrupted, it can put a lot more mental load on us because we're struggling to remember those day-to-day things that would come naturally in the routine context. So, during the festive season, there's a lot of different change, and change can provide uncertainty and can increase our anxiety. And that causes a lot of additional stress, particularly in situations where for children, they're not seeing regular schoolmates or teachers or people that add significant value to their lives. Or for adults, if they're not seeing support workers or other services that provide, consistency with changes in routine can also mean that some things that we do drop off or become harder to do because of that mental load. So we might be in a habit of getting up in the morning, brushing our teeth, having breakfast, taking our medication before going to work. But if we're not working because our office is closed, then we might sleep late. And by sleeping late, we're already breaking that routine. And so that makes it really difficult as an individual to be able to remember what we need to do next. And sometimes for some people, particularly children, it can be really difficult to adjust from a full year of focused learning to suddenly not having to use our brain in that way. And recognizing that the school holidays are only temporary, that you're going to go back to school. And for those who do recognise that they're going to go back to school, there might be some anxiety around what the new school year is going to look like. And so this all kind of compounds around Christmas, which can create, a little bit of a disruption and can increase our stress.
What can families and carers do ahead of time to make these routine changes like service breaks easier on everyone?
Yeah, so I guess for parents, providing that support and providing social stories or communicating what that change is going to look like up in the lead up to the school breaking for the year. So in the start of December is a really good time to start raising those conversations about, school's about to finish and this is what the school holidays are going to look like. I always recommend providing communication in a multimodal form. So not only just communicating verbally about the change, but also using written communication, visuals to support that person to be able to process that information and come back to it at a later time. In addition to that, for children, having some structured activities and trying to keep some things consistent, which is really difficult because a lot of after-school curriculum activities break for the school holidays as well, which makes it really hard for parents to keep that consistency. So things that you might consider or do is see if that there's similar activity that's offered on a school holiday program that you can enroll your child into, or see if a small group of parents can get together and do that activity themselves and have some structure through that means. For adults, I guess because we don't have the school term, but we might have office closures or we might have a lot of upcoming family commitments or things that potentially will make us feel uncomfortable or stressed or feel like we need to work harder or put more energy into getting our house ready. It might also be using some pacing and energy conservation strategies. So, this is recognizing ahead of time what you might need to do or what's coming up and trying to pace your week out so that you're not putting too many activities in the week that you would consider harder activities. So, what a hard activity is differs for every person. It might be because it's physically difficult, it might be because it has a lot of steps, or it might be because it feels really overwhelming. And so, if we know which activities come easier to us and which activities we struggle more with, we can space them out in the lead up to the festive season to sort of reduce that load. In terms of trying to build routine on a day-to-day basis, there are reminder apps for adults and child-friendly version mobile applications that we can use to reduce the mental load of having to remember what our standard routine is by putting it in there. And the notifications from these apps will act as that reminder support. So that might mean if you sleep in and you miss that first point of brushing your teeth, taking your medication, and you've high risk of forgetting to take your medication, put in those apps, those activities, brush teeth, medication, eat breakfast, walk dog, whatever it might be, so that you know that you're going to have that prompt. Other supports that might help in situations, particularly for individuals who struggle with transitions, is really communicating, particularly around, I guess, holiday, family gatherings, expectations around start time and finish time, so that it's easier for the individual to know what the endpoint looks like and to be able to prepare themselves. So that might include using countdown schedules, it might be a visual, it might be even just a really brief agenda of, okay, so Christmas Eve is going to look like this is Christmas Day, and this is what we're doing Boxing Day, and here's the rough times, so that they're able to kind of prepare themselves and make sure that they have all of the tools and resources they need to move through those activities. Yeah. And lastly, I'd also suggest in this area making sure that any medical appointments, any medications, any scripts that you need to renew, that you're booking ahead of time appointments so that when office closures happen, that you're all ready for that.
Holiday festivities can also be a sensory roller coaster. Bright lights everywhere, music, relatives hugging hello. For someone who gets sensory overload, this time can be really intense. How can families make holiday events more comfortable for them?
Yeah, I think that's a really good consideration for all of the people out there with sensory sensitivities. I think it starts back with what we were already talking about creating certainty through structure and expectations. So, starting with an agenda or visual support so that the person knows what the activities are is really important so that they can bring the right tools for that activity. So, in the case for parents supporting their children, this might mean telling them whose house they're going to. If it's a new house, showing them some pictures of where they can go in the house so that they can get some quiet time or downtime. Or if it's a familiar house, just encouraging them and reminding them where they've gone in the past to get that space in the quiet time. In terms of bringing resources, it's really important if you've got an understanding of your child's sensory needs or if you have an understanding of your own sensory needs to make sure that you are prepared in advance. And this might even look preparing 2 or 3 days before the activity that you're going to. So it might be a Christmas dinner or a breakfast or a family event on Christmas Eve. Getting resources together that can help you to get through that. So that might mean making sure you've got your noise reducing earbuds like your loops. it might mean bringing multiple levels of noise reducing things. So bringing your loops, but also bringing over ear headphones or earmuffs. So you've got some options to grade based on how sensitive you're feeling. Making sure that you have your favorite fidgets or items that you find can kind of help you stay focused so you can engage in conversations, but also having items that you find calming so that when you need to retreat to that quiet space, you've got things that can help you re-regulate. If you know that you're going to an event that's focused around food, it's important for parents and family members to recognize that neurodiverse individuals may have difficulties eating in front of others, and to support them to feel safe in this environment where there's a lot of food, and to kind of have those discussions beforehand around how that person would like to manage that situation. If you're an adult who's coming and you know that there's potentially a lot of foods that might not meet your needs, it's okay to have a chat with the host and say that you'll be bringing some of your own food, and making sure that as a family that there's some different options available depending on texture, tastes, different sensory preferences in that area. In terms of lighting, for those who are creating a safe space, if you're hosting Christmas, a safe space in your home for someone to retreat to, consider lighting. Overhead lighting, bright lights can be very overwhelming for some individuals. So opt for putting on lamps, lowering blinds, pulling curtains to make a bit more of a darker, cozier nook, because the less stimulation that we have in this way, the more that the person can regulate themselves, and it'll help them get back into being in a place to socialize and engage with others faster. For multiple family gatherings or multiple events across Christmas, it's important to allow built-in transition time and built-in recovery time, because it can be a lot socializing and managing your sensory preferences and navigating all of those social rules and expectations. So if you know that you'll be going to multiple places on one day, give yourself or your child some time in a safe space. It might be going back to your home, or might be having a slightly longer car ride to get to the next venue, or it might be playing some car karaoke, whatever it might be. Build in some extra time for them to re-regulate and be ready for the next event. And as with everything, during this period, if we look after our self-care, it can also help with managing those sensory demands that come. So making sure that you're eating, that you're taking your medications, that you're drinking water, that you're getting that sleep. Because the more that we look after ourselves, the more that we'll be able to tolerate changes. One last thing is, when preparing for the lead up to Christmas, there's a lot of gift giving, a lot of food shopping, the likes. Where possible, if you know that you're a type of person that really struggles in crowded environments, loud music, bright lights, consider click and collect options or online delivery options to reduce the amount of times that you need to go to the shopping centre. Or if you find that your child is really not tolerating those environments, it also means that you can allow your child to stay in the car while you do click and collect without having to go into those crowded places.
Thank you, Rachel. That was really helpful. Welcome, Heather. Thanks for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me. So, the holidays are supposed to be joyful, but they can bring up a lot of feelings. What emotional challenges might people with disability and their families experience during this season?
So, holidays are often portrayed as fun, exciting, and there's an expectation that we have to be happy. But for many people, and especially with a disability and their families, this season can bring up a mix of strong emotions. One common challenge is loneliness or feeling different. Social events can highlight the stigmatization of those with disabilities. or mental health struggles, accessibility barriers, or highlight those differences, which can really lead to isolation or withdrawal. There's also grief and nostalgia. Holidays tend to bring back memories of the past, traditions, or loved ones who are no longer with us. And that can feel really heavy. Another big one is anxiety and feeling overwhelmed. The holidays often mean that changes in routine and sensory overload at different events, and there's a lot of social expectations, and all of this can be really stressful. And then on top of that, there's also the pressure to appear happy. So people feel like they have to put on a happy face, even when they're struggling, which can make it harder to express their genuine feelings and reinforce the feelings that they are being unheard and they're being uncared for. And for families and caregivers, stress and burnout really spike during this time. They're juggling care needs with the extra added holiday activities, and that can be exhausting. And finally, people feel misunderstood or judged. Others might not fully understand the challenges that they're facing, and that can lead to feelings of being dismissed or criticized. And acknowledging all these different emotions is so important. The holidays don't have to be perfect, they just need to be authentic. Creating inclusive spaces and offering emotional support can make a huge difference.
So, Heather, what can people do to support their loved ones' emotional well-being during the holidays then?
When it comes to supporting your own emotional well-being or that of a loved one during the holidays, the first thing I'd say is to give yourself that permission to do things your way. Traditions don't have to look perfect or follow what everybody else is doing. It's okay to change plans so that they actually feel more manageable and meaningful for you. Another helpful strategy is to practice simple relaxation and grounding techniques. This could be as easy as taking a few deep breaths, stepping outside for some fresh air, or using mindfulness exercises to stay present when things feel overwhelming. It's also really important to keep some form of support contact, whether that's a friend, a family member, or a professional. Having someone there that you can just reach out to, even just for a quick check in, it can make a huge difference. And not forgetting to schedule downtime and self care. The holidays can be busy and demanding, so intentionally planning time to rest, to recharge, and do something that really brings you comfort. It's just so important.
The holidays can be demanding for caregivers. What would you say to a parent or carer who's also feeling overwhelmed, trying to make everything work?
Well, the festive season often brings extra pressure for caregivers, and it makes it really hard to keep everything balanced. And it's easy to feel really overwhelmed trying to make everything work. The first thing I'd say is to prioritize self care without guilt. Looking after yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. When you're rested and supported, you're better able to care for others. You can't fill someone else's cup if yours is empty. And share the load where possible. That might mean asking family members to help with tasks, delegating holiday preparations, or even just simplifying those plans so you're not carrying everything on your shoulders. And again, connecting with others, whether it's friends, support groups, other parents who might understand what you're going through. Having someone that you can talk to makes that big difference. And again, being kind to yourself. Things don't have to be perfect. Give yourself permission to let go of those unrealistic expectations and instead focus on what really, really matters, that connection and that care.
And finally, what can families do to make their celebrations feel emotionally safe and welcoming for everyone involved?
To make holiday celebrations feel emotionally safe and welcoming for everyone, the first thing I'd suggest is validate all feelings. It's okay for someone to feel sad or anxious, or even just want a little bit of time to themselves for a quiet moment during what's supposed to be a joyful season. Let them know that they their emotions are normal and they're respected. Give them choices, flexibility. So, for example, if large activities or big gatherings are going to feel overwhelming, give them that option to skip them or create a quieter space for them. Flexibility just helps everybody feel included without that additional pressure. And finally, focus on connection, not perfection. The holidays don't have to look like a picture perfect movie. Small, meaningful moments like sharing a meal, a conversation, a laugh, that's what really matters. And when families approach the season with understanding and adaptability, it really does create that sense of safety and belonging for everybody.
Thank you so much, Rachel and Heather, for joining us. I hope this conversation has given you all helpful information and ideas to carry you through the holiday season, and that small acts of care can make a really big difference. If you'd like to connect with us and learn more about LiveBig, visit livebig.com.au and don't forget to subscribe for more conversations like this. From all of us at LiveBig, we wish you a joyful and inclusive festive season. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of this nation, whose country we work and live in. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders as traditional custodians and their ongoing connections to land and sea. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging as law keepers of the world's oldest living culture. We celebrate the stories, culture and traditions of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders so we can, in the true spirit of reconciliation, continue the journey together.